Hey, RJ. I can't hear you, and it says that you're muted.
Very good. Thank you very much. You can tell I'm new to this streaming thing. Thank you very much, Blue.
Are you-
Else I would have been talking to myself for about a whole 10 minutes here, I'm sure.
Oh my.
Uh,
Let's see. Oh, it says we're live. Okay, that's good to know. So I should get this open on YouTube as well.
I am going to send a couple of more invitations, so we'll see if we can get a nice little crowd in here to talk about Thomas Valiant for the last hour before I have to get on to other live streams.
Who are you on with tonight?
I am, well, besides Michael, before that, I am going to be on, let me check. Chris, what's his, I'm not sure of his channel's name. Just 1 second. Chris Evans.
I'm not sure who that is. Well, if we figure it out now, we don't want to dox anybody's real name relative to, our code names. Right,
Yes. Right. Just call me, you can call me RJ, that's fine. Just 1 second here. I'll see if I can send Nick an invitation. We might be able to get one of our esteemed artists on here.
That'd be good. I see we've got Bianca Fights the Zombies. Aloha to you. I've seen that name before. Ted Lehman. I do not know where I first saw your name, but I know I've seen you around. And Fenrir, the Ice Wolf. Quick question: will the villain, while you're typing your note to your I forget, Nick, I think, will the villain heroes use exaggerated origins to gain fame, like one of them saying that they are an alien from a dead planet? Hi, Nick.
Nick, if you're wondering, I sent the link to your email because I am flustered right now. So I did send you a link. It's in your email, not in your Twitter. Now, about the question about the alien backgrounds. Let me put that up on the screen here.
Such as exaggerating their origins, for example. Will any of the heroes or villains be doing that?
I don't see that. That certainly doesn't happen in the first book. No, there is very, very little exposition in this first book. It is mostly action. Your introduction to these characters is almost constant action. There is different kinds of action. Like I said, I want to enter a sort of Ocean's 11 element into this story, which I have, and Renzo is writing it right now, drawing it right now. So there's different kinds of suspense, different kinds of action, but we're not going into any real backstory. You're just getting to find out about the characters through action. Again, they're going through the gauntlet and they're going to have to survive. That's all that you're going to get at a book one, but it's going to be a thrill ride.
Was that part of your editing process with just yourself or with the editor to go through and say, here's something I want the audience to know about my character and where am I showing it rather than telling it? Like, was that part of your checklist?
Not really. Quite honestly, I do everything. I do everything in long form. Mm-hmm. And Joe over at Michael's stream, he has told me this. He's of the same mind. But 80 pages, I originally had 72 pages, and we bumped it up to 80 for one of our stretch goals. But even with that, and it being one continuous story over 3 chapters, that's a short amount of time for me to tell a story. So I had to condense it down to just what was absolutely necessary, and all that is really necessary is action in this first book, I think. So that's what I concentrated on, and it's really getting it into the pages because you only have a limited amount of space.
That's something I remember from the first Alien film was they didn't let you get to know the characters and then tell a story. You barely got to know the characters in terms of personalities, but it was just through the actions, just watching them interact, and that's it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going for here, and that's why on the previous stream I was talking about what my characters look like is deliberately meant to trigger something in your brain as to I already know what this character is going to be like power wise and what they might be doing. So you can jump right into the action. It's like, I don't have to learn about everybody's powers. I don't have to have a history lesson on all of the characters. If you're a comic reader, you would probably be able to stick it in your mind exactly what's going on. And if you're a non-comic reader and you don't know mainstream characters, hopefully the action is written well enough so that everything can be introduced in a way that is not going to need a whole lot of exposition. There's only like 2 pages. Renzo and I have had to go through this. There's a couple of pages where I have to intrude on his art, which is funny because it's so beautiful. But there's a couple of pages where I need exposition just to let them know what's going on. But it's only like 1 page every chapter. So I hate to crowd out Renzo's art, but that needs to be done. But I don't want to end up like a Marvel comic today where you're sitting there reading a library worth of words.
Yeah. And speaking of chapters, I'm in the middle of God's Hand by Anthony Figaro, and thankfully he broke it into chapters. Otherwise, I would not have put it down and gone to bed when I'm supposed to last night. But when you say chapter, do you have multiple chapters inside your book like he does, or is this the book is the chapter?
No, there's three chapters in this book. There's going to be basically it's broken down into 3 scenes. So each one. The main section, which is the second chapter, is probably going to be longer than the rest. First chapter is about 20 pages, and it just introduces the characters, introduces the actions, and we get second and third. This is one of the things I'm always going on about in my normal videos, is that you need a beginning, middle, and end. That's the traditional way of writing a story. So I wanted to put that in there exactly, and put together a logical and consistent story the way it's supposed to be told.
Yeah. And speaking of Renzo, his artwork, it really, before I read, I want to read one of the questions from the chat. I'm trying to get you calm and make you comfortable, by the way, even though I'm kind of a panelist and you're the host, but I'm doing what I can to help you out with your stream. So
thank you.
I like Renzo's artwork because it's very much Jason Fabic from the house style of DC, but with those Canaan white flowing blacks in them, and it's a nice in between from those two, and I think it's beautiful. He's got details where they need to be and all that. So we've had a couple questions in the chat. Let's see. Fenrir asked one. Hey, Axe. And then there's Robert Roberts asks, Hail Xenu, does RJ have any commentary on Battlefield Earth, which I believe is a novel? And perhaps a larger comment on how, L. Ron Hubbard comparatively uses narrative, like Christians also use narrative as truth claims. Okay.
I only know Battlefield Earth from the very bad movie that it was made into.
Likewise.
So I'm not familiar with much of L. Ron Hubbard's work. I couldn't actually answer that question to any great degree. Most of what my storytelling is based upon is all laid out on my channel. It's Aristotelian storytelling, and I try to do it by the numbers. I'm a very logical, consistent man, and I need things very much laid out for me. And that's all that I base it on.
His question there, though, about using narratives as truth claims and things like that, I've been encouraged to do more than just comic reviews, which I already had in mind anyway, but some of them on my channel, I was thinking of starting to do little lessons, because there's a lot of Bible study that's needed out there among people who are Christian. So we'll see about getting to that on my channel. Let's see. Then we have another question, a couple down. So Fenrir responded nice to something you were saying earlier, but Dorman360 has a question. How did the 8 extra pages affect your storytelling?
It allowed me room to breathe. Quite honestly, it's just that we packed it in, and I made sure that everything could fit into the 72 pages, because that was the page limit for the printing that I was looking at. But I knew that I wanted to put this in as the stretch goal. This was one of the stretch goals from the beginning, along with the colors. I needed colors at the first just to help sell this book, because it's obviously, when you're looking at the colors in the background, so beautiful colored. But I wanted the extra 8 pages. I didn't know if I would get it. I was able to tell the story in 72 pages, but with the extra pages in there now, honestly, it's not There were things that I was going to cut out, just we'll say dialogue wise, in order to make sure that it would be able to fit. But this way, things won't, I don't feel, be rushed, and you'll be able to enjoy Renzo's art a whole lot more without me trying to put word balloons all over the place.
Axe, how you doing?
No, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I had some supper, and I'm doing well now.
Yeah, I ate too. I also have a little bit of wine here, so yeah, got to celebrate.
Yeah, we're definitely going to celebrate. We're almost, I think the last I checked, we were about $650 away from hitting our $25,000 stretch goal mark.
Jeez.
Yeah, 413 backers. Wow, that's amazing. Love it.
Are you overprinting?
Yes, I'm going to be overprinting. I was saying in the earlier stream, I don't know if you were there. I honestly, something came to me for two reasons. I want to overprint, probably because a lot of people, I'm sure, have missed this just because they don't know me or my work, so they might want to catch up in the next campaign. So there will probably be a double book package within the next campaign, because I do intend to do another one. But since this was planned to come out around Christmas, I thought it would be, if I could possibly swing it, I really want to overprint so that I could give some away. I don't know if there are charities for, like, boys and girls clubs or things like that, or anything that of that nature, where I could give away copies. And I want to do that as part of Christmas this coming year, just as a thank you to everything that I've been able to make.
Great.
Nice. I mean, just sort of paying it forward to them because of everything that you've been given to do this.
Indeed.
Yeah. Axe, I forget who you are.
I'm the guy that did the cover and the pinup.
Oh, okay.
Or one of the pinups. Yeah, so I guess it's the one with Phantasm.
Yes, this is Nick's work right here on the cover.
Oh,
And
nice.
as I was saying in my last in the last stream, we did up two, one with the red, which is more night, and one with the blue, which is more day. So I'd like a lot of input. If anybody wants to give that input in the chat, go right ahead. Let me know which one you think would be better suited for our cover.
I like the blue one because of one, I just like blues better than reds, but because of more of a balance and spread of the whole spectrum, even though a lot of comics have very little green in them. And then for me, the oranges tend to be too hot overall. And so the blue has more color variety to it. And, well, to me, maybe I'm blind.
I honestly can't tell. That's why I need help. Is just they're both so beautiful, and I don't know. I'm having a hard time trying to distinguish between the two of them.
No, it's good. It's good to bring in the opinions of people who've paid for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If we've got a couple versions, let's hear what people are digging. Let's do that one. Yeah.
Comic Booger says, I thought the blue was moonlight night, and the red was more like sunset or sunrise. He likes the blue one more too.
Yeah, he's right. Actually, what happened was I didn't tell, or no, maybe I did email RJ that I was thinking about like an orange red sort of color, and I just went ahead and did it. And then RJ's like, what about day? And I was sitting there thinking, I really want to go to bed, but I need to get this. I want to get RJ this as quickly as possible. So I just went into my layers and I really quickly just started shifting and doing, all that magic, and rushed it out the door. So that RJ would have something. But you're right. It does look more like moonlight. It would have to actually take me a little bit more time. I think I referred to it as like being quick and dirty, just some quick and dirty edits for RJ to see. But it does look more like moonlight than daytime. Currently, it would take me some more time to actually get that right.
And so what inspired the orange one if that's not the daytime? Is that sunset?
Just that typically, when red is on the shelves, or sitting, let's say, in a competing on a storefront on the interwebs and so on. Red is the color that usually stands out, and I thought, all right, well, since this is an action scene, that also fits. So, and just the whole sort of every time I saw Renzo's art, I was always blown away with like the destruction of the city streets and everything. So it just sort of seemed fitting in a sort of dystopian way that, like, yeah, if there's all this rubble and all this chaos and everything else, red seemed like the color to go with.
The red of violence, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Blue. I'm sorry. I'm not. So RJ, and is there anything interesting in the chat? Sorry about that.
There's no problem. I was wondering, Nick, have you ever listened to my videos about the color palette that they use for Marvel and how it is distinguished by being more feminine, in that female eyes are constructed different than male eyes, and they pick up different shades?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember that. And I think there was another psychologist that I was listening to that was very similar to what you were talking about as well. Yeah.
It was really funny. The reason why I actually did that video is because I was listening to, what's her name? The one who came up with Captain Marvel, the current Captain Marvel writer. I mean, not currently, but
Amanat?
No. Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Oh, yeah.
She was doing an interview that Marvel had set up between her and Sports Illustrated, because they're both owned by Disney. And this woman from Sports Illustrated was talking to her, and she was making fun of the idea that she sees things with women's eyes. And I honestly found that when people like that, when the people, these quote unquote progressives, SJWs, whatever you want to call them, ridicule something, it's usually because they are trying to hide something. So it made me go on a journey to look through all the psychological and physiological papers about whether or not men's eyes were actually different than women's eyes. And it turns out they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has to do with the way the cones and everything are arranged, and the type of colors and the type of things that men are attracted to. Motion. Men are attracted or respond or are stimulated by motion. Edges also for males, shadow, light and shadow, that sort of thing. And then women are very much about color. That's completely different. And it's a scientifically known fact, but yet that's a taboo. It's amazing.
What's this question? We have a question here from John Doe. What do you think about Fable Comics? I'm not familiar with Fable Comics, quite honestly. If anybody, do you know what he's talking about, Blue?
I think Fables is a title that was under Vertigo, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes.
Look it up real quick.
It was outside of my time. Sorry, John. It was not something that I got to read. It was, I think, the late 90s when I really abandoned comics, mainstream comics, for a while, because I just went to buy backstock and small collections and things like that. New comics did not interest me at all for nearly 10 years until, again, like I said in previous videos, I started watching Richard Myers, and really got me to take a second look at good comics and whether or not they were still out there.
No, your story is similar to mine too. I just kind of fell out. I mean, I would sort of pay attention tangentially, and nothing was really exciting me. Yeah.
Fable started in 2002, and it looks like it ended in 2015.
Vertigo was never exactly my kind of thing, although I originally did buy the first series of, like, from number 1 of Hellblazer. And it was really funny because one of the things when I got back into comics, I started to look at my collection, because my collection's probably about 33 long boxes. And I looked up, Yeah. I started to look up all the things that used to be worth something and are no longer. I was surprised at what that they're no longer worth anything. One of them being the Doom Patrol, because Doom Patrol got into being a Vertigo comic. I bought the original Doom Patrol in the series before that, and that's what I actually liked instead of the Vertigo part. But Vertigo was never my type of thing. Like I said, I do own a lot of Shade the Changing Man and all that kind of stuff, but it was never on the top shelf for me.
Did you? I first got into Sandman just after they started Vertigo, and Sandman was another one, if people don't know, that existed before just before Vertigo. I forget when the first Vertigo title was, but it was not. Sandman by Neil Gaiman existed as it was DC's adult or mature line. And of course, at my LCS, I overheard some kids talking one day about when DC bought Vertigo, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. I was there. It's an imprint. That's not something they buy. So, but yeah, Vertigo ended up, for me, when I back when it started in the early '90s, it just became so overly sexualized that it was just, some of the books were just stories about being sexual, and I was like, this really isn't, and like there's no substance here.
I found that it had so much of an English quality to it that it didn't appeal to me in that way. I mean, I too read Sandman from when it started, and books of magic and things like that, and they did have an interest for me, and I certainly bought them, Black Orchid, stuff like that, but it didn't, I don't know, it didn't resonate with me. And I think it was because, honestly, you had so many undertones. It was an English book. Most of the stories were from English writers, and the only really English writers and books that I paid much attention to back at that time would probably be Judge Dredd.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of the Vertigo, like, I didn't know how perverted Pete Milligan really was until Vertigo, because at first Shade the Changing Man was interesting and weird and all this, and then it just turned into how many different lesbian relationships can we get out of two different people with the third guy around. It was just, I don't know, it was strange for that. But there was another book called, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, the reason why I bought so many Shade the Changing Man was because I owned a bunch of the Carlton comics, Shade the Changing Man. And I was always waiting for it to flip back towards something like that. And after a while, it's just like, no, I guess it's not going to. So I better just find something else to spend my money on.
The beginning of the Vertigo run on Shade the Changing Man was actually pretty good, when it was a tour across America and they're trying to contain insanity. But after that, it went sideways. And then there was another one, Enigma, that I look back on that miniseries now and I go, this was basically a rape story. The whole thing was, if anybody out there wants to look up Enigma, it's about a man who is psychically forced into being gay just to expand his horizons. It's another Pete Milligan project, and it's like that's really a rape story when you think about it. So, but anyway, enough of that. We do have other questions floating in the chat. I think some go back a bit. One, it might be a joke though. John Doe a while ago asked, "When are we getting Thomas Valiant in Injustice?"
Injustice, as in the video game?
Yeah.
That's funny. I was thinking about Richard Meyer, and the fact that someone made a skin for a video game for him. But my thing is so 80s that if someone wanted to make a video game for this, it would look so basic. It would look like an 80s, I don't know, Jumpman Jr. I mean, old Donkey Kong would probably be too many pixels for the video game that would be for my heroes.
Somebody else, Fenrir, is asking, he's really curious, what does Pulse do? It looks like energy manipulation, but he wants a little bit more.
You want a little bit more. Well, I guess you deserve a little bit more, because I have really not put much about him in any of the stuff that I put out. He has a power which I don't know if it's comparable to maybe like Adam X or something like that from the X-Men from the 90s. He's able to use his power either internally on himself to boost things like his stamina or his strength, or externally on other people in order to boost their powers. So he sends a pulse of energy either through himself or someone else. So in the few pages that he's in, that you see his action in the first couple of pages that I released, you'll see him attacking Tecton, who is the guy on the screen there now. And it would be, at that point, he would have increased his own strength because, again, it's more of a send a pulse through myself or through others. If they have powers, it will increase their power, or it will increase his own natural power. You might think of it sort of like Ultra Boy from Legion of Superheroes, where he could only use one power at a time, something like that.
Okay.
Oh, we got Literature Devil in the chat as well.
Nick, you did that cover. Did you see my, I don't know if you're on Twitter, did you see my comment yesterday about jujitsu?
No.
Now, I was thinking the same thing, Blue. I never got to respond to your comment, but when I looked at Nick's, we'll put that up on the screen here for 1 second. When I saw Nick's picture, the way that Thomas Valiant is trying to get himself free from the other character, which is Blue Skies, that's what came through my head as well. It's more of he's trying to use leverage to get himself out of it, using leverage against someone who's basically Superman is not going to help you. But I mean, it is a good idea. And I thought it was a perfect example of these two kinds of heroes and powers.
So Nick, I don't know where did you get the pose from there?
Desperation. No, where did I get the post? I don't even remember really.
Okay.
No, I just sometimes you just scribble lines down to try and find that gesture to get some sort of life in the figure. And a buddy of mine who is also an artist, I would show him and he would make suggestions as well. But yeah, no, it's just basically sketch after sketch after sketch after sketch until finally you land on something that actually feels right.
Okay. There's RJ, there's another question in the chat if you want to tackle that.
Let's see.
I shouldn't be doing your job for you. I'm sorry.
No, it's good you pointed out. I have such a hard time trying to concentrate on two things at once. Do you have any favorite out of the characters you created for this comic? Well, Thomas Valiant is really the reason why the book is named after him, because he's my favorite character. Although if I could ever have superpowers, I would probably ask for Disc's superpowers, which is minor teleportation, but she has a limitation in that she can't teleport herself or living things. She can only teleport inanimate objects, but that was one of the powers that I would really think would be the most useful thing in the world if I was a superhero. And I wonder why no one ever built a superhero around that idea. There is sort of that kind of idea with Magic in Marvel, but they never really explored the powers fully. But yeah, Valiant is my guy. That's why I went with Thomas. Someone had pointed out quite rightly that Thomas Valiant is alone in a crowd. And I guess that's a bit of a self-insert from me. So there's a lot of things in Thomas Valiant which hit home for me. So he'd be my favorite.
Like a little brother, huh?
More like an older brother, quite honestly. There's a story behind that, but it has to do with my brothers. So I'll leave that one out.
Do you want to keep going?
Okay, do we have any other questions? Let me see.
Red Rude says he's got great expectations. Or sorry, Rex Rude.
Adonis. Thomas Valiant's powers are the best. With that power, you could be as tall and as buff as I want without working out. Which is funny because on the first page of the second chapter, which we have released on the Indiegogo page, Renzo did 3 amazing pictures of Thomas Valiant as he sort of shape shifts from one to another. And the first one is a biker. He looks just like he could tear your head off without even breaking a sweat. So yeah, that's part of his powers. What is literature devil? Let's see. Does Valiant know to leave Metropolis when there's a fight? Well, that's the thing about this story and about this character, because he does have a backstory, and I've said this many times. I've written so much backstory for this, and I gave it all to Renzo. He must just be in pain at sometimes trying to keep up with my backstory. But the thing about Thomas Valiant is he was always taught to use deception and to use subterfuge in how he was being a superhero. But in this book and in his future that he's beginning here, he becomes the person not in the background, but in the foreground. He becomes the leader. And so he's the one who has to stay and fight. Again, in his backstory, he would be the one to run away. He would be the one to make excuses. He would be the sort of, we'll say, Odysseus type. You know, if you know much about Odysseus from the Odyssey, Odysseus was the cunning type who always found a way around everything and made sure that other people fought his battles for him if he thought he was outmatched. But as a character developed, as Thomas Valiant develops into this hero that is at the forefront of a team, that is no longer an option for him. So, and
did we answer John Doe's question?
No, not yet. I didn't want to cut him off.
What was John Doe's questions? Let's see. I can't. It must be a little farther up in the.
It starts with OMG. I need to ask.
Oh, okay. I think there it is. Need to ask, do you guys have recommendations of well-written stories and comics? Oh, I struggle a bit to find them in this medium, right? Compared to manga, yes. Honestly, someone had asked me this just the other day. They were saying, what would I give as a 10 out of 10 for a comic? They wanted me to give a recommendation because I do the 10-second comic reviews in the community section of my YouTube channel. And I said, the Simonson and Simonson run of Thor was probably the best run of comics I have ever read. It's Walter Simonson doing the art and Louise, his wife, doing the story. It ends up in the, I think it's probably around 328 or something like that. It's close to there. They end up with the Destroyer saga, where Thor, because he's cursed at that point, he can't actually heal like a normal Asgardian. And so he allows his essence to be taken in by the Destroyer, which is actually in the movies. Partly, I was so thrilled to see the Destroyer in the Thor movie because it harkens back to that storyline. That would be the best run of comics I would ever come across. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys keep your own?
I have one in mind, but I've been talking a lot. Nick, before I blather, do you have anything in mind?
I mean, Daredevil Man Without Fear, I've always enjoyed, and I reread that all the time. But something that I really like as well, it's you said manga, but the one thing that I like is European from a creator, Alex Alice. He took the Siegfried opera, which it doesn't sound like that would be amazing, but the comic is unbelievably beautiful. It's 3 tomes, so the larger format hardcover, 3 tomes, unbelievably beautiful, and the adaptation is really moving. By the time you get to the end, I mean, yeah, you're pretty jacked. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful read, but I continually look that one over.
What was the name of that again? I want to type it in the chat for people.
Oh, it was Siegfried, and then there's a couple of other volumes as well. I've got it right beside me. That's how much I love this. But yeah, it's basically Siegfried. And then the second one is the Valkyrie, and then the third one is Twilight of the Gods. And the artist, he's a traditional artist does watercolor. He inks the pages as well. Like it's definitely worth it. I'd recommend that one strongly. Can't say enough good things about it.
This is Red Hand. Is that it?
His name's Alex Alice, and it's Siegfried.
Oh, okay. Those are just the regular titles, not subtitles. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah. The other ones. When I was reading the other ones, it was just the subtitles for the second book, which was the Valkyrie, and it's basically the flight of the Valkyrie.
Cool. For me, I was out of comics from about 2002 to 2018. When I got back in 2018, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was looking to comics as the American short story so I could learn how to write, because some of my friends liked my writing ideas. So I figured I should learn how to write, and let's go back to comics and just see how it's done. And boy, did I get a lesson when I discovered your boy Zach, to find out that comics was not the place I wanted to learn anything at the moment. But a more recent one was actually written a while ago for a series called Superman Confidential. It was a series. It was basically an anthology series in the sense of a different team would take over each story arc. And these were, you could consider them Elseworld non-canonical, but one that didn't get published was a 4-issue that didn't get published as Superman Confidential. They canceled the series, but later it finally came out last year as Man and Superman by Marv Wolfman, and so it's about 96 pages. It's 4 issues worth. That one I really liked. It's about Clark leaving Kansas to arrive at Metropolis and going through some struggles there. What's nice about Marv Wolfman maintaining the character is he's still aspirational the entire time. Even when he gets disheartened, he still has in him the desire to do the virtuous things. He's just having some shall we say, a rough time learning how to use his powers for good, as it were, and yet keep a secret identity, etc., things like that. So you see him go through a little bit of heartbreak and setback for a moment or two, but still keep trying and persevere. And I thought, especially if you're feeling isolated or alone, that's a pretty good story to read, and just to get some encouragement out of, even that other people go through this enough that somebody even wrote a story about it, and it's Superman of all people. So it's a nice inspirational or aspirational thing going on there.
I'm just scrolling down in the chat. I think Incubus Time Lord has a question here. Oh, just saying that Phantasm is the most visually striking character to me. That is for a reason. I want her to be visually striking, and Nick hit that on the head when he made that character. Did that pose for that character, because one thing, I guess I never really mentioned this, but that pinup from Nick, which, let me put that right up on the screen right now. This is actually a scene from the second chapter. So Nick's both pinups, which I think he's going to be making the second one because we're going to get past that $25,000 stretch goal. Both of his pinups are pages from the book. That is to say, Renzo will be covering them in his own way in the book, but visually striking is what she needs at that point in time. So that's why I made sure she looked that way. Other question here is Thomas Valiant an ongoing series? As I had indicated before, yes, it is an ongoing series. The second book, which I hope to put out next year, may not be under the name of Thomas Valiant, but it will be a continuation of the story. I'm not entirely sure. A few people have said to me I should find a better name, and I might actually do that, but I don't know if that would hurt my sales or not. I'm just scrolling down here in the chat to see if I can. Oh, there's Brian from Honey Badger Radio, which I've been on a couple of times. He is definitely much better at this than I am. Let's see. Scrolling down. I have to do the Zach thing.
Did we get Lit Devil with? Does he know to leave Metropolis when there's a fight?
Yes.
Okay.
We
all right.
did. It's a yes and no answer to that question. He did at one point, but he can no longer.
So
just
I gotta
because-
watch the multitasking. I'll lose track of what you said.
So, just something that you were talking about there, Nick. There was a book also that I really love. It's a mini series, and I don't know where it comes from. I think it's and I can't even pronounce the title correctly. I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, but it's Fafnir and the Grey Mouser.
Yeah.
That is
Mike Mignola.
yes.
Yeah,
That
it's beautiful. Yeah, go on. Sorry. Yeah.
No, but that sounds a little bit like what you're talking about for your other book that you were discussing. That's what came to mind when you were saying that to me.
Yeah, I think Chaikin wrote that. It's so that book's that's a wonderful suggestion, RJ. That one I have as well, and I refer to it. I have a stack of books that are, every artist has it just sitting right by their desk. That's one of them. It's some of Mignola's earlier work, and you can see he's already forming his style, and he's already thinking in these terms that we know so well with Hellboy. But the dialogue's really snappy. It's super fun, very entertaining, and just the way he captured the characters is great. Yeah, that's a good recommend for sure.
That was one of the books I used to draw when I was younger, and the two villains out of that book is one of the pictures that I drew that really came out the best. And I really liked his art style and wanted to try and see if I could do it myself. They're wraith-like creatures wrapped in rags and bandages and have multiple eyes coming out from different places. It was a really fun thing to try to draw and to visualize.
Yeah, the dialogue and the interplay between the characters and just the way Mignola drew the characters, it kind of feels like a William Goldman script, from like Princess Bride or what have you. Just the dialogue's clever and fun, and the characters are really well drawn, but they're also well written. Yeah, it's good.
Let's see. If I was scrolling down the chat here, we do have one at the bottom there. Is this book going to be as deep as your videos are? Will it be hard for a less thoughtful person to read? No, it won't be that deep. That is to say, I am going to take all the things that I talk about in my videos and trying to put them into a comic book story. So it's not going to have heavy metaphysical connections to anything else. It's going to be, as I had talked about in many of my videos, I'm breaking it down into 3 chapters because the traditional way to write a story back as far as Aristotle is beginning, middle, end. They need to be there. They need to be distinct. They need to be so that they're in that order. If they're not in that order and they still fit together, something is wrong. So those are the bases. That's the basis of my book. I was actually thinking, well, there is going to be a strain of a lot of the things that I talk about underlying. But again, I'm trying to write this book and have the art as well for everyone. That is to say that if you're a kid and you pick this up, you're going to enjoy it on one level. But if you're an adult and you pick this up, you're going to enjoy it on another level. So there will be things in there that do hearken to what I'm talking about all the time on my channel. But if you don't get them, you're not going to miss out on the story. It's just an extra little bit here and there. Yeah, I was actually thinking about taking the back cover page, not the very back of the book, but the inside of the back cover, and scribbling down a few notes on it over top of some of the beautiful art that has been provided for me, and just talk about some of the underlying themes about the story, just in case people wanted me to go into a little bit more about that, so they could go back and reread it. Read it once, you get to the back page, then you read my notes and then say, oh, that I missed that the first time. I'll go back and read it again. So
The first note should probably be, don't read those notes until after the first time you read the book.
well, I was thinking I'd put them upside down or something. I always wanted to make the book look like an 80s comic. I'm not going to be able to do that. But at the very least, I want every page to have some kind of character to it. I don't intend to have it look like one of those graphic novels where you have multiple pages that have nothing on it, or you have a back page that has nothing on it. My experience with comics has always been every page was used, every space was used. It doesn't matter if it was for advertisements or not. And since I'm not having advertisements in there, I'm going to make sure every space is used. So if I can put in a couple of extra notes at the end, that would be my little nod to everyone who wants to go very deep into the story.
Nice.
Have any more questions? Let's see.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're rolling.
Oh, there. Not sure if I've missed a couple or not. Let's see. R2D2 for life. Have a good evening, everyone. Okay, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Let's see. I've seen some indie comics doing crossovers already. Would I do one? A few people have asked if I would be interested in doing a crossover. I'm not entirely sure I would be. I'm not. I mean, there are certainly characters, other kinds of characters. There is one certainly that was actually supposedly told me by the creator that it was inspired by my videos, called Paragon Prime. And he has his book coming out soon. But I don't want to do crossovers until, at the very least, until I get my characters established. I really don't enjoy the idea of multiple universe crossovers because, again, it takes it out of the human element. I want to make sure that it's grounded in humanity and that you're looking at these characters as if this is life or death. This is the only world they have. This is everything they need to do is here and now. So I think at some points, multiple universe tie-ins and things like that break that reality for your comics. Let's see. Do you guys think it's a good idea to have a character with multiple personalities or grown from one to another? Okay. Well, yeah, how would you implement that? You would implement that like Mark Spector, which is Moon Knight for Marvel. That's exactly what his character is. Although I used to read Moon Knight back in the 80s, 70s even, and his character was not like that. It's more of a modern thing. He tried to always keep his other personalities down in those older comics. But if you wanted an example of that, you should go towards Moon Knight. So it is doable, and I do believe it is sellable. There are people out there who want to read those kinds of stories, but whether or not it's everybody, the mass audience, I'm not entirely sure, just because Moon Knight has never really been something that I think everybody knows about. I don't know. What do you think, Blue?
I think Axe was going to say something before I ramble. What's up?
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up, whether or not it would be widely sort of accepted. I think one of the things about, let's say, multiple personalities that not very many people can relate. So it becomes a sort of a barrier for bringing that humanity to the character and having people feel that empathy and that sympathy for the character. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is difficult. One of the ways you could treat it is having it as a secondary character or supporting character. Not to say to fall into comic relief or anything like that, but just that if the character isn't necessarily the main character that we're all supposed to relate to, but is a supporting character that's there, you can explore that character's multiple personalities through your main character. And then therefore you have sort of a point of view, and your main character is going to sort of not dictate how the audience or the reader should feel, but would be a point of view that would give a frame that would interpret the multiple personalities that are coming from that supporting character. And then that way you have that aesthetic distance, so that you might not necessarily empathize with the character. Some may, those who might have, let's say, multiple personality disorder, you might not empathize, but at least through the main character and his frame or her frame, you can sympathize with that character, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, if people want to go make a note of this time. How far are we? Let me look real quick. We are at 51 minutes. Yeah, that's definitely come back and re-listen to what Axe just said. Sorry, do you prefer Nick or Axe, or do you care?
Axe is fine, actually.
Cool. All right, go re-listen to what Axe just said, because a lot of times you want your cleanup to be your last guy to speak to be really clear like that. Let's see, for how to implement somebody with dissociative identity disorder. You have to remember it's not schizophrenia, and I would say read Catcher in the Rye and say that's not dissociative identity disorder. That's paranoid schizophrenia. It's one personality that varies between delusions of grandeur and delusions of persecution. So that's not exactly how you would write a dissociated character. It's more like the book Fight Club. Yeah, I said book. In Fight Club, one personality is aware the other exists, the other is not. You could, if you try to use that as a way where, let's say you're this is funny because somebody once called me Tyler Durden at church. Anyway, if you try to use a Tyler Durden character as your superhero, that's good, because he knows that then the street identity, or I should say the straight identity, is his disguise, and the plain identity doesn't know that the superhero exists. But then that can also come off like really cheap as well. So you'd want to, basically pick your battle and be careful. Don't make it too cheap. The thing about Fight Club as a book was, in terms of character arc, the reconciliation of those two sides of his own personality, and normally that's not, splits like that don't happen except through like abusive situations normally, unless there's something else going on in brain chemistry. But this is just, he just had angst over society. That's not usually where you'll get a dissociative identity. Still, his character arc was involved the reconciliation of two schools of thoughts, or two approaches to life, and while answering other questions that were actually the point of the book, to answer those other questions, or at least explore them. So you really want to be careful with something like that. Is it going to be a cheap gimmick? Is it necessary to the story? Does it become a key event narrative piece of the story? People use the term narrative now to mean something akin to philosophy. I don't mean that. I just mean a sequence of events. So you want to look at its function really before you try and implement it. And if you implement it, try not to be too cheap about it. And then I recommend, after saying all that, go back and re-listen to what Axe said.
So I just have a question here. Andrew asks, I mentioned in the last stream that the characters in the universe are corrupted by power. Does this mean the heroes need to immerse themselves in their secret identities to stay sane and grounded? It's hard to say. I never really thought about that. Honestly, I think about these characters more in an X-Men vein, in that you never actually see much. Certainly, we'll say the 1980s X-Men. They were never quite out of character. They were never quite off. It was who they were. It's part of their identity, although my characters are not like mutants, but they didn't really have a secret identity. I don't see secret identity as being part of these characters at this time. One of the things, again, about the backstory about Thomas Valiant is that he always had a secret identity. He never allowed himself, even his friends, to see his actual face. But I don't see that as being part of the story right now. I think that it's more the team trying to help each other and just be human in the crisis situations that they find themselves at, although they're very down-to-earth crisis situations, certainly for people with powers. Again, it's not going to be invading aliens or end of the universe. It's going to be the threat level of, again, something like your 1980s X-Men stories would have. Good question here from Joe. He's asking if there's a reason why he loves the colors used in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's not nostalgia. No, we were just talking about this, about the colors, because your eyes are trained, again, for men, for the male eye, or it sometimes happens if females have a more masculine type of eye. It's the clean colors. It's the clean distinction between colors. Men's eyes distinguish more between primary colors and the distinction between colors because they look for movement, and they need very clear distinctions between one thing and another. So that's what men's eyes are trained for, because again, if you're out hunting in the woods when you're a caveman or slightly above that, you needed to distinguish these things to stay alive, either so you could hunt and get your food or didn't get hunted as food. So that's the way scientifically men's eyes are constructed. So no, it's not nostalgia. It's your brain and your eyes. That's why you love them so much. That would be my answer to that question. Anyway, let's see. Scrolling down, see if I get any more questions. I did have something that I wanted to read. Oh, Alley Cat. Thank you very much. I'm really happy that my videos actually make an impact. So thank you very much for that comment.
She has a question later that I almost want to answer for you.
Let's see. I want to go down. I'll get to your question. I just want to go down through what we have here. Someone says, try to get a shout out in Ethan's live streams. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's see. Oh, player one. Very good. Oh, I love that icon, or your avatar. I don't know where that comes from, unless it looks to be something inspired by Berserk. I've arrived at the Professor Fourth Age. Yes. No, Ethan hasn't mentioned my book yet. That's okay, but I think we'll keep ourselves busy with what we got. So Alley Cat says, when did you first start writing the series? Where did you get the inspiration from? I did talk about this, but that was my last stream. So I'll go over this again. Only about a year before I actually hired Renzo and started to get the art done did I come up with the idea for this book. And as I explained, everything that I write usually comes from a dream. My brain is hardwired because I used to play so many RPGs just on my standalone PC. I would play D&D games, or if anybody knows things like Quest of the Avatar, or what were they? I can't think of it off the top of my head. But games like that, where you're always trapped in a maze or you're trapped in a dungeon and you had to find your way out, it impacted my brain severely. I've realized this, I think, in a very maze-like fashion, and it affects everything down to my dreams. That's why I like logic, because it's a maze. It's let's find out how to get out of this logic trap through the words that have been spoken. So my dreams are extremely intense. They're extremely well put together. It's like sitting down and watching a movie most of the time. And this is where the story came from. I had a dream. This was the story. I've actually had dreams, like the novel that I have written, which I have never gotten published, but I literally my dream about that was so intense that I finished the first novel and did not finish the story that I had to tell that came to me in the dream for that story. That's how long they are sometimes. It's like an Inception thing.
I misread her question as why did you start writing the series, and where'd you get your inspiration from? I was going to answer her with, I listened to your videos at 1.5 speed, so you're talking faster and it's a little bit more, let's just say you sound a little more worked up about everything. So, which fits what you're saying perfectly, by the way. So I was gonna, just joking around, I was gonna answer her, the reason, misreading her question, why did you start? The reason he started was because the power of his angst would have cracked the planet if he didn't get this out there as a book.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, I honestly, I love where I live, and I love the quiet, and I love the fact that I live in the woods and I can just take off anytime I want. But having someone to talk to in my videos, it's really kind of therapeutic in a way, because I can finally, I finally got to people who understand what I'm trying to say, at the very least understand where I'm coming from when I feel upset about these things, because it was hard pressed to find someone at the comic shop to do that with me.
Mm. You know, a lot of us understand better because of your videos. And, you know, I will see a comment every so often that says thank you, just in the chat today. I think there have been 3, but I don't mean to hold you up on more of the chat. Just, you know, you are doing a service for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Adonis has a question here. Let me see. Humanization still important for such characters. Okay, so let me read the whole thing. Sorry. I have a bunch of characters who have become so powerful they've achieved apotheosis. Apotheosis. Yes. Sorry. I can't read Greek unless it's in Greek. Sorry. Humanization, I think, is always fundamental to any characters if you wish them to be heroes. Like I'm always saying on my videos, to be a hero is to be truly human, and to be truly human is to be a hero. So that's what I base my characters on, and I honestly believe the old saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Just as a student of history, that seems like an axiom that is true. So that's why I built my characters the way that I did. The more power they use, the more powerful they become, the less human they become, and the more villainous they become. So I always think grounding in humanity is the way to build a character who wants to be a hero. And I think that connects with their audience, anybody's audience, when you have a hero, because we all have that heroic nature buried deep within us that we wish to bring out, even if it's just in our reading or whatever we like to do as our luxury, whether it be playing games or reading a novel. We only got about 10 minutes left before I have to jump off and go into another stream. So I want to see if I have any more questions. But you were going to say, Nick?
No, if you want to get through the questions, let's do that. Okay.
Let's see. What were my fears related to the comic when the project started? I don't know. I really didn't know how it would be received. I wanted to do an old style comic in the fact that it is, again, as I've said a number of times, it is for everybody, in the fact that it is for kids and it is for adults. I wanted to try to bridge the gap, because I do believe that 1980s, certainly early 1980s comics did that. They bridged the gap so that children could enjoy them and adults could enjoy them at the same time. But I didn't know whether or not there was a market for that, because so many of the crowdfunded comics were specifically targeted towards adults. So whether or not my ideas were going to transfer into the amount of money needed, I was going to do the book anyways. I really wanted to get it out there, but that was a bit of my angst at the beginning of the project. Let's see. Oh, people are starting to chat up a storm here now.
Jason DeNorma back to you. Awesome.
Very good. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. That reminds me, I was supposed to send out an email, a mass email, but I never got around to it because of my streams. Adonis saying about the beautiful art. Yes. I think that's about the beautiful art. My words are all jumbled up right now. You can tell in my normal videos, I sound a little more, I'll put that in quotation marks, a little more composed than I do right now. Certainly.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm in your position, it feels like I can't make out the words in front of me. Right.
I can make them out. My mind's working a little bit too much. Is the
Yeah.
nature devil I have here. What stream are you going to? I will be doing Michael Brankoff's in an hour, but in 10 minutes, I will be doing. I just have to. Honestly,
Sugar Chris? Are you doing? Is it Sugar Chris or something like that?
You just give me 1 second. I'll pull up his channel here because honestly, yes, it is. You are correct. Sugar Chris. He is doing a live stream he's actually on the live stream right now with someone. He's going to give them their time, and my time starts at the top of the hour. So yes, it's a small live stream called Sugar Chris. It's spelled SHUGAHCHRIS. That's his channel.
I'm finding that stream, and I'll put, even though I'm not wrenched, so you can't click on it, but just copy paste, and it'll take you guys right over to where he's going.
Let's see, scrolling down. Oh yes, I'm doing Michael Bancroft's at in an hour from now, hour and 10 minutes from now. Let's see now. Is there anything else? Well, I think we've hit the bottom of the chat. So if there's anything else that you two gentlemen would want to add, now is your chance.
There was that one question there. Well, where was it? Word question? Or is it, no, it wasn't that one. Okay, so yeah. So the apotheosis question. To sort of buttress RJ's point about power corrupting absolutely and so on. I remember I was on I'll try and make this quick. I was on a forum, and there was a person who had complained about that Tolkien didn't have Frodo throw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom. And she really believed that he should have. And this other poster had come in, and actually there's, Tolkien wrote so many letters, and someone else had actually, inquired about the same thing. Why didn't Frodo throw, the ring into the fires of Mount Doom? And, Tolkien's response is going to be far more eloquent than what I'm about to say. But essentially, it came down to this idea that when you have power, when you acquire power, to get rid of it, it becomes you. And to get rid of it would be like chopping off your own arm. The idea that you're going to lose this thing, that this power is so seductive, and that you're so possessed by it. And this is sort of the failing of mankind. And this is what Tolkien was trying to say, is that here you have in this ring this sort of absolute power, and Frodo, an innocent, that's what a hobbit sort of represents, carrying this ring all the way. It was a miracle that he could even carry it that far. The heroic act was the fact that he even got it there. Mm-hmm. But then once there, to throw it in, it was too much for any mortal to do. And the way, and I can't remember the word, maybe you guys can jump in and save me, but there was a word that Tolkien used in terms of when Gollum came in and sort of delivered them. Essentially, it was his act of trying to bite the ring off of Frodo's finger that, obviously was the destruction of the ring. And I can't remember that word, but it was a literary term that Tolkien was using in terms of, don't think this is the word, but it kind of an echo, where if you remember, Frodo had said to Gandalf, Bilbo should have killed Gollum. And then he's like, are you the one to dole out death? Gollum may still have a role to play. And so the idea there was that Gollum did have a role to play. It was, a Frodo who spared him, and suddenly now he does have this role to play to essentially help deliver. This idea that apotheosis is sort of a non-starter when it comes to kind of a humanity. If you can't build in that humanity, which apotheosis, I'm not sure. I off the top of my head, I can't really figure out how one would do that. It would be an exceptionally difficult task, because apotheosis suggests that you're godlike. And so being godlike, suddenly introducing sort of humanity into that, that would be a tall order. Yeah, anyway, so I just some things to think about with regard to that, but I know RJ has to go, so.
I guess all I can add to that is Sam was my favorite rather than Frodo. I'm sort of ashamed. So, anyway, hey, RJ, thanks for inviting me in to come and help you out. I hope I haven't accidentally domineered. So.
No, thank you very much. I do need someone to help me. I can never get everything done at once. Thank you both very much for hopping on the stream. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for everybody who's listening. And don't forget, there's only about 4 hours left. I'll have to check before Thomas Valiant's original campaign is ended. We are basing our stretch goals only off of what we are going to get in the original campaign. So few hours left to get your copy of Thomas Valiant. I'll see you all in my next video.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Nick, it was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you as well.